This is your USMNT Abroad weekend update from May 10th to May 12th of 2024. Hi, if you're new here, I'm Filippo, and welcome to Tactical Manager TV, and welcome to the US Men's National Team Abroad series, where every single Monday we update you on how the Yanks did abroad over the weekend. Now, before we start, I want to give a special shout out and a big thank you to Frank from Boston City FC that sent me this merch, sent also this beautiful scarf. They're doing tremendous work there. Go check them out, Boston City FC in USL. And once again, thank you very much. I love it. It's a little hot in Florida, so I won't use it as much. Maybe when I travel up north to New York or Boston. We'll see. And before we continue and start this episode, I want to say one thing very quickly. Next Monday, we will not have the U.S. Men's National Team Abroad episode, unfortunately, because there's a few things that will keep me busy during this week and weekend, so we won't be able to do it next Monday. We have another special episode coming out that has already been recorded, and you may be wondering, what are you up to, Filippo? Well, guess what? If you want to know what I'm up to, you're going to have to follow us on Instagram at Tactical Manager TV or Twitter, which is just Manager Tactical, or both. And you also might be wondering, why can't you just tell us right now? Well, that would be too easy. I'm very toxic, and I want more followers on Instagram and Twitter. So that's why I'm doing this. Okay? And make sure to drop a like in this video if you haven't already. Let's try to hit 1,000 likes as this series is coming to an end, at least for this season. We're obviously going to be back in August. And with that said, let's roll the intro and start the episode. As always, we start with the top 5 leagues in Europe, the first one being the English Premier League. With that said, why don't we start with Reyna and Matt Turner from Nottingham Forest. Two players that very often combine for 0 minutes. And on Saturday, Reyna didn't even make the bench for Nottingham Forest, while Matt Turner stayed on the bench the full 90 minutes. At the time of this recording, there are no reports of Reyna being injured, so it seems like it might have just been a decision from the coach. Now listen, I know that I'm about to beat a dead horse, but I'm gonna do it anyway. If Reyna had stayed with Dortmund, he would have likely had the same amount of minutes that he's having at Nottingham Forest during this loan. Maybe even a bit more towards the end of the season, because Dortmund is and might actually rotate till the Champions League final. On top of that, Reyna would have made the bench for a team in the Champions League final. The loan to Nottingham Forest has been a disaster, far worse than the McKennie loan to Leeds, and it's honestly not even close at this point. Okay, so I want to add one thing before we move on. I know that I'm a professional hater, but I'm going to do the complete opposite right now and pull a glass half full out of my ass. So I'll say this. At least Reyna will be very well rested for the Copa America, which helps the national team, and maybe it'll draw the attention of more European clubs. Maybe he gets more offers during the summer if he has a good Copa America for the U.S. men's national team. So let's move on from Gio and Matt Turner, and let's talk about Chris Richards from Crystal Palace. And on Saturday, Chris Richards started and played the full 90 minutes for Crystal Palace during their 3-1 win over Wolves. Richards has really stepped up this season and proven that he can play in the Premier League as a center back at a very high level. He had another very solid performance for Crystal Palace to help them secure the 3 points. Next up, we have Austin Trusty from Sheffield United. And on Saturday, Trusty started and played the full 90 minutes for Sheffield during their 1-0 loss to Everton. With the goal they conceded this game, they have officially become the worst defense in the English Premier League's history, with 101 goals allowed, and it can still get worse because they have one more game to play. After Trusty, we have Anthony Robinson and Tim Ream from Fulham. And on Saturday, A-Rob started and played the full 90 minutes for Fulham during their 4-0 loss to Manchester City in the English Premier League. As for Tim Ream, he stayed on the bench the full 90 minutes, and it's pretty much been that way for all of 2024. I just want to add that Man City dominated this game, and most of the Fulham team struggled, including Robinson. Last but not least, in England, we have good news, and that's that Tyler Adams is back. And on Saturday, Tyler Adams was back, and he started off the bench for Bournemouth and was subbed in around minute 82 during their 2-1 loss to Brentford. Both of the goals they conceded were when Tyler was on the field, and they weren't really on him. The first one, Tyler tried to cover for their left back as Bournemouth was exposed in transition. The second goal was also in transition. And then again, I don't really care how Tyler plays right now. just the fact that he's back is good news. They also got one more game to go, and hopefully they give Tyler Adams another like 10 to 15 minutes. Then, send him well rested and healthy for the U.S. men's national team this summer. The season is pretty much over, and I think it's important for Tyler to get a couple more minutes before he heads to the summer with the United States. But honestly, at most 20 minutes. The last thing we need is an injury right now. So get 15 minutes, and then he's good to go to ball out for the U.S. during the Copa America. Now let's go to Italy and talk about the Americans in the Serie A, the Italian first division. The first two being Christian Pulisic and Yunus Musa from Milan. And on Saturday, Pulisic and Musa both started for Milan during their 5-1 win over Cagliari. Both Americans played the full 90 minutes. But you know what? How did they do? Well, the title of this episode kind of spoiled it, or at least part of it. Pulisic had a brace. He scored twice. Streaky Pulisic was back at it. And now he's on a hot streak. Dude is like Katy Perry's Hot and Cold song, but like every 5 games. He goes on a freezing cold streak for like 4 to 5 games where he does nothing. Then he turns things around and goes flaming hot for 4 to 5 games, getting assists, scoring. This guy has the thermoconductivity of a diamond. And this is probably the first time that I apply or say something that I learned during engineering school, which makes me proud of myself. I never thought the day would come where I could make an analogy using something I learned from engineering and, U.S. soccer. But here we are. For the first half, Pulisic played on the left wing, mainly because Rafael Leão was on the bench. During the second half, Leão was in, and Pulisic played mostly as a right winger. And Pulisic was great in both halves, taking on defenders, putting in dangerous crosses. He almost had an assist, but Rafael Leão hit the post. On top of all of that, Pulisic did also score a brace. The first one starts with Yunus Musa playing a beautiful back-heeled pass to Leão on the defensive side of the field. Of course, it was on the defensive side of the field, because if it was in the final third, Musa would screw things up. Seriously, this guy is really bad when he gets to the final third, or the attacking third. We'll talk about that in a minute. After Musa's pass, Rafael Leão was able to take the ball forward on his own, and then he handed Pulisic a 1v1 at the goalkeeper with a beautiful through ball, which led to a clinical left-footed finish from Christian Pulisic himself to score his first goal in the match. The second goal was a cross where Pulisic settled the ball and hit a powerful strike with his right foot. The ball beat the goalkeeper, but a defender almost cleared it off the line. And I say almost because the ball did, in fact, cross the line, and Pulisic scored his second goal, getting a brace. It was a tremendous game from Christian Pulisic. He was really good. And again, last week he was also good, got an assist, played well. That's how Pulisic rolls. At least this season, he's been very streaky. 4 to 5 games where he balls out, 4 to 5 games where he is just a ghost. As for Yunus Musa, he was fine. He had some good moments in between both boxes, but again, defensively, he isn't perfect. He's not bad, but not perfect. And he also struggles quite a bit in the final third and while on distribution. What I don't get with Yunus Musa is he does most things very well. He's a very well-rounded player, but every time he reaches the final third, he immediately becomes the worst player on the field. He really needs to work on that, his distribution, and perhaps defensively as well. My theory as to why he struggles when he's in the attacking third is actually quite simple. He blows by defenders in the midfield and makes better decisions there because there's more time and space on the ball. When you're in the final third, the decision-making and ability in tight spaces has to be sharp. And it seems like Musa with that, it's not rocket science. He struggles with it. It's not that complicated. If he can improve defensively and his distribution, he might end up just becoming a central defensive midfielder long term. Or if he doesn't improve any of that, he's just going to be an okay or not so great box-to-box midfielder. But moving on from Pulisic and Musa, we got 2 more Americans in the Italian first division, and they are Weston McKennie and Tim Weah from Juventus. And on Sunday, McKennie started and was pulled off at halftime for Juventus during their embarrassing 1-1 draw with Salernitana at home. Salernitana is the worst team in the Serie A this season, and Juve was able to pull a late draw during added time, which is quite embarrassing. Tim Weah was suspended for this match, so he didn't play. And let's just say that this was a game that Weston McKennie and Juventus wish Will Smith and the Men in Black could just neuralize it out of their memory. But unfortunately, they can't, because the Men in Black are not real. Aliens are probably not real, or maybe they are. Who knows? All right, let's move on from all of that, the Americans in Italy. But before we go to Germany, a quick word from the sponsor of this video, Underdog Fantasy. And they have a new offer, so you might want to check it out. And we'll be back in a minute. And if you made it this far in the video, don't forget to hit the like button. All right, see you in a minute. Underdog Fantasy is a fun game to play prior to any soccer match or basketball, football as well. You know, it just adds an extra excitement to the game. In this summer, I will be playing Underdog Fantasy during the Copa America and Euros. You can download the app by using the link in the description of this video and use the promo code TMTV. Yes, please, don't forget to use the code. And let me tell you why. Sign up with the code TMTV to claim your special pick plus a first-time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. The game I mainly play is called Pick'em. I just click on it, scroll to the soccer section, and pick a player for the specific match and select the stats that I believe will be lower or higher. It's very easy to play, but be smart about it because it's not that easy to win. I'll also be playing some Underdog Fantasy during some match live streams during the Copa America and Olympics, posting my picks on X and Instagram, so you must stay tuned for that as well. And once again, I'm a professional hater, so usually I pick anything that will have me rooting for the downfall of that player. With that said, once again, thank you Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring the channel. The link to play is in the description of this video, and the promo code once again is TMTV. Thank you, Underdog Fantasy. Okay, next up are the Americans that play in Germany. The first one being Brenden Aaronson from Union Berlin. And on Saturday, Brenden Aaronson started and played 54 minutes for Union Berlin during their 3-2 loss to Cologne. And there are two things here to talk about. I didn't watch this game, but I heard from sources that I trust that Brenden Aaronson didn't play well. Now, the second thing is with this loss, Union Berlin has entered the relegation zone playoff spot in the Bundesliga, and they're just 3 points away from Cologne, which would get them directly relegated in the Bundesliga. So what am I trying to say here? It's that the risk of Union Berlin getting relegated is real. The odds of them heading to the playoff round for survival is actually quite high. Then who knows how that would go, and that would be back-to-back seasons where Brenden Aaronson gets relegated. One in the Premier League with Leeds, and then now in the Bundesliga with Union Berlin. That last season, they actually qualified to the Champions League. Next up, we have John Brooks from Hoffenheim. And Hoffenheim actually got a 6-0 win this weekend, but Brooks just chilled on the bench. He just stayed on the bench for the full 90 minutes. Essentially a VIP seat for this bloodbath. Moving on from John Brooks, just like Greg Berhalter did, let's talk about Joe Scally and Pifak from Borussia Mönchengladbach. And on Saturday, Joe Scally started and played the full 90 minutes as a left wing back and got an assist during Gladbach's 1-1 draw with Eintracht Frankfurt. As for Pifak, he stayed on the bench the full 90 minutes for Gladbach. Next up, we have Kevin Paredes from Wolfsburg. And on Sunday, Paredes started and played 79 minutes for Wolfsburg during their 2-0 loss to Bayern. Last but not least, in Germany, we have Leonard Maloney from Heidenheim. And on Saturday, Maloney was back from his shoulder injury. He started off the bench and was subbed in around minute 65 for Heidenheim during their 1-1 draw with Freiburg. If the U.S. men's national team Copa America roster is expanded to 26, there is a possibility that Maloney could be called up. Otherwise, it's unlikely with all the players being currently fit, like Tyler Adams and Johnny Cardoso. Okay, time to go to Spain, to La Liga, and talk about the two Americans that played there. The first one being Luca de la Torre from Celta de Vigo. And on Sunday, Luca de la Torre started off the bench and was only sent in the 88th minute for Celta de Vigo during their 1-0 loss to Atletico Madrid. He was sent in roughly 5 minutes after Atletico scored. And the second American that plays in La Liga is Johnny Cardoso from Real Betis. And on Sunday, Johnny started and played 60 minutes for Real Betis during their 3-2 win over Almeria. Johnny was doing fine in this game, so I'm not sure why he was subbed out early. I don't know if it's rotation, he needed rest. Regardless, Real Betis got a crucial win as they're currently fighting for a spot in the Europa Conference League. At the time of this recording, they are 1 point ahead of Real Sociedad. However, Real Betis has 3 games to be played, while Real Sociedad has 4. One of them being this Monday against Barcelona, so hopefully they lose or have lost it by the time you're watching this video. After the Americans in Spain, we're going to go to France and talk about Florin Balogun from Monaco. And on Sunday, Balogun started off the bench and was subbed in late in the first half due to an injury during Monaco's 2-0 win over Montpellier. Okay, so he got an accidental assist that still counts as an assist, and he continues to not really stand out for Monaco this season. Hopefully that changes next season. The good news here is that Monaco has officially qualified to the Champions League, so Balogun will be playing some Champions League soccer during the 2024-2025 season. And he's still our best center forward, in my humble opinion. Despite the struggles he's had this season, I still firmly believe that Balogun is the best center forward that we have. And hopefully he backs that during the Copa America. Okay, we are done with the top 5 leagues. Now we're going to go to the Netherlands and talk about the Americans in the Eredivisie. The first one's being the PSV boys. Serginho Dest, well, actually, Dest is injured, and technically, he's no longer a PSV player, but maybe he will be again in the future. He's going back to Barcelona to recover from the ACL injury. So the other 2 Americans that play for PSV are Ricardo Pepi and Malik Tillman. On Sunday, Tillman started and played the full 90 minutes for PSV during their 1-1 draw with Fortuna Sittard. Ricardo Pepi started off the bench and was sent in around minute 69. Nice. This was a little of a hangover game. I mean, this team was partying all week after they won the league, so that explains the poor performance. The big news here is that PSV has finally signed Tillman on a permanent deal. The transfer fee that they paid Bayern was around $13 million, and based on some reports out there, Bayern has kept a buyback clause of roughly $35 million that expires in the summer of 2026. What's interesting is that Bayern was willing to let Tillman go, but they clearly still believe there's some potential there. And after that, we have Taylor Booth from Utrecht. And on Sunday, Taylor started and played 56 minutes for Utrecht during their 1-0 loss to Sparta Rotterdam. Last but not least, in the Netherlands, we have Paxton Aronson from Vitesse. On Sunday, Paxton started and played 84 minutes for Vitesse during their 3-1 win over Heerenveen. Vitesse won. That's weird. They never win. Now we're going to go back to England to talk about the Americans that play in the second division of England in the EFL Championship. Now, listen, Haji Wright and Horvath, their season is done, so we're not going to talk about them. But Josh Sargent and Norwich are playing in the playoffs, so we're going to talk about Josh Sargent from Norwich. And on Sunday, Sargent started and played 84 minutes for Norwich during their horrible 0-0 draw with Leeds. By horrible, I mean the game was horrible. And this was the first leg of the EFL Championship semifinals. The next game will be played on Thursday, and Sargent is actually questionable as he was subbed out with a minor ankle injury. Now, David Wagner said that he is hopeful that Sargent will be able to play on Thursday, but we'll see. Sargent does seem to injure those ankles quite often, more than I'm comfortable with. Dude just has weak ankles. His ankles are as weak as tactical managers' knees. So let's skip on that. Well, not skip on that. We're done with Josh Sargent. Now we're going to talk about Cameron Carter-Vickers from Celtic in Scotland. And on Saturday, Carter-Vickers started and played the full 90 minutes for Celtic during their 2-1 win over Rangers. A big win in a massive derby. Now, Celtic are not officially the Scottish League champs this season yet, but they're pretty much the winners at this point. They need 1 point in the last 2 games to win it, or they just need Rangers to drop points. So I'm just going to say it, just like I said on Twitter, it's Jover. They have won the Scottish League. So congratulations to Cameron Carter-Vickers. Now, before we move on or almost close the video, I want to give you a quick update on the Italian second division. Como got promoted, which means Nico Gioacchini, which is one of their forwards, he is a backup, but he's still part of their team, and he got some minutes in the second half of the season. He will be in the Serie A next season. Venezia, that has Gianluca Busio and Tanner Tessman, will play in the playoffs for a spot. Will they get promoted? Time will tell. They kind of blew it this weekend because if they had gotten a win against Spezia, they would have been promoted. And they had a 1-0 lead at halftime. But they, allowed Spezia, a relegation battle team, to come back, defeat them, and then Venezia is going to have to go to the playoffs and battle for a spot in the Serie A. If they do get back to the Serie A, we'll have 2 more Americans in the Serie A. Actually, 3 more Americans next season. Nico Gioacchini, Gianluca Busio, and Tanner Tessman. But for that, Venezia will still have to get promoted. They have to go through the playoffs. We'll continue to cover that here at the channel. Last but not least, we have the Americans that play in Liga MX in Mexico. And if you made it this far in the video, you better drop a freaking like right now, because you guys bullied me into continuing to cover them. You proved that cyberbullying works. I don't want to incentivize anyone to do cyberbullying here, but it kind of worked here at Tactical Manager TV. And the least you can do is drop a like and a random ass comment to boost this video. With that said, let's go to the coverage. The first player being Alejandro Zendejas from Club America. And on Saturday, Zendejas started and played the full 90 minutes for Club America during their 1-1 draw with Pachuca for the second leg of their Liga MX quarterfinals match. So 2 things here. Club America advance since they have the better campaign. This clash was 2-2 on aggregate. Now, they barely advanced because Quinones scored at the 94th minute to get them through. Club America will face Chivas Guadalajara in the semifinals, and honestly, I think Chivas Guadalajara might advance. Their defense has been rock solid lately. They've been in better form, and I know that Club America knocked them out of the CONCACAF Champions Cup, but I think Chivas might advance, which brings us to Cade Cowell. And on Saturday, Cade Cowell started off the bench and was subbed in the 69th minute. I know it's late in the video, but nice. For Chivas Guadalajara, during their 0-0 draw with Toluca, Chivas advanced with a 1-0 advantage on aggregate. Last but not least, we would have had Brendan Vasquez from Monterrey, but their second leg, their second match, actually, well, second leg or second game in the quarterfinals, was way too late in the day on Sunday, so we're not able to cover it. Now, I am assuming Monterrey advanced and knocked out Tigres, but you guys can let me know in the comment section who advanced, Monterrey or Tigres. Right, everyone, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to drop a like before you go. Thank you, everyone that's been joining our Patreon. And also, thank you once again, Boston City FC, for sending me this merch. I loved it. It's beautiful. Thank you very much, Frank. And with that said, I don't have anything else to say here, besides the fact that, next Monday we don't have the US Men's National Team Abroad episode, but we have a special Copa America episode with a special guest. I want to thank you all very much for watching, and have a great day.